Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the latest tech news.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we got a bunch of articles here from Google's tech news page. So we're going to be talking about AI, gaming, smartphones, you know, the usual suspects.
Hmm.
But our mission today is to, kind of cut through the noise and give you guys those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
So you can walk away feeling like, okay, I get it, and maybe even have a cool tech fact or two to share.
What I think is really fascinating is how all these different areas of tech, which may seem separate on the surface, are actually becoming more and more connected. It's
Yeah.
like we're seeing this convergence
Right.
where, AI is influencing how we game, how our smartphones work, and even how we interact with our homes.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Let's start with
Okay.
AI because there's a pretty big development happening over at Amazon. They're about to release a seriously upgraded version of Alexa,
Mm.
and the rumors are suggesting that it's going to be a lot more than just a few minor tweaks. We're
Mm.
talking AI on a whole new level.
Yeah, this is a big move by Amazon. You have to see this in the context of what's happening with the other voice assistants out there.
Right.
Google Assistant and Apple Siri, they're constantly evolving, so Amazon needs to keep pushing the boundaries to stay competitive.
It's like a digital arms race in a way.
Yeah,
But what has me really intrigued is how this new Alexa is going to be a lot more conversational.
right.
Imagine less about giving her single commands and more like having a back and forth, like a real dialogue.
Yeah, and that's where Anthropic's AI engine comes in. Anthropic is a company that's been doing some really interesting work developing AI models that are focused on safety and ethical considerations.
Right.
So integrating their engine into Alexa could mean that we get an assistant that can not only understand our requests and context, but can remember our preferences and
Mhm.
even anticipate our needs.
Okay, so instead of just saying, Alexa, add milk to my shopping list, you could say, Alexa, I'm feeling kind of peckish. Can you whip me up a snack, put on some chill music, and remind me to call mom later?
Right.
And she just handles it all seamlessly.
Exactly. It's more than just a voice-activated to-do list. It's like having a proactive digital assistant, almost like a super efficient personal secretary that lives inside your smart speaker.
Right, right, right. Okay, now, here's where it gets really interesting. There's this rumor going around that Amazon might be considering a monthly subscription fee for this souped-up Alexa.
Interesting.
Yeah, somewhere in the range of $5 to $10. So what are your thoughts on this potential shift toward paid AI services? Do you think people will actually pay for it?
Well, it's a gamble for sure. I mean, will consumers see enough added value to justify paying for a service that they've become used to getting for free, especially when you consider that competitors like Google Assistant and Siri are likely to maintain their free-to-use models?
I mean, yeah, on one hand, you're getting this incredibly advanced AI that can do all these amazing things. But on the other hand, are people ready to open their wallets for something they're used to getting for free?
Right.
I know, it's a tough one.
It's an interesting experiment, and, it could set a precedent for the entire tech industry.
Totally.
Makes you wonder if we're heading towards a future where all the best AI-powered services will come with a price tag.
Yeah. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about gaming because I know a lot of our listeners out there are big gamers, and there's been a lot of buzz lately about the Nintendo Switch too. And the
Yeah.
rumor mill's been going crazy, and a recently discovered patent is just adding fuel to that fire.
And this isn't just your typical patent. This one hints at the possibility of those detachable Joy-Cons actually functioning like a computer mouse.
Whoa, okay. Now, that's a bold claim, but we've seen our fair share of kind of gimmicky controllers before.
True.
How do we know this won't be another Wii U gamepad situation?
It's true. Not every innovation takes off. But think about the potential here. Imagine playing a fast-paced shooter like Doom Eternal with the precision and responsiveness of a mouse.
Okay, yeah,
This could significantly level the playing field between console and PC gamers.
I see what you mean.
And it's not just about shooters. Think about the precision this could offer in puzzle games, strategy games, even creative applications.
Right. Yeah,
Imagine using the Joy-Con like a digital paintbrush or a sculpting tool.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can already picture the online debates about how this is going to impact esports and competitive gaming.
Yeah, and for developers, it raises all sorts of new possibilities. Will they embrace this new control scheme? What entirely new genres or gameplay mechanics could we see emerge? It really makes you wonder.
It does, it does. Speaking of AI and its potential impact, You remember that Super Bowl ad that Google put out, the one with all the different types of cheese?
Yeah, the one that was supposed to showcase their AI capabilities.
Yeah, that one. So I actually saw that ad during the Super Bowl. And to be honest, I wasn't all that impressed. It felt kind of robotic and lacked the humor that I usually expect from Google's ads.
It's a perfect example of how AI, while powerful, still has limitations when it comes to creative fields.
Yeah.
AI can be great at analyzing data and patterns to create content, but capturing that uniquely human touch in storytelling, especially in advertising, it's still a challenge.
It's like that spark of human creativity is still needed to really connect with people on an emotional level. All right, let's move on to smartphones. Because the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is generating a lot of buzz.
Okay.
It's got some seriously impressive specs on paper, but it seems like it's not all smooth sailing when it comes to actual gaming performance.
Yeah, this is a classic case of specs don't tell the whole story. You might be surprised to hear that even with all of its processing power, the S25 Ultra struggled to maintain a consistently high frame rate in a demanding game like Genshin Impact. Meanwhile, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, its main competitor, delivered a much smoother gaming experience.
So even with all that horsepower under the hood, the S25 Ultra kind of stumbled a bit.
Yeah.
It really highlights how important software optimization is,
Mm.
especially when you're talking about pushing the limits of mobile gaming.
Exactly. Raw processing power isn't everything. Smartphone manufacturers are in this constant balancing act. They're trying to pack in as much power as possible, but they also have to make sure that battery life doesn't take a hit.
Right.
It's a delicate dance.
It is. It is. And let's not forget about the other players in the smartphone arena, right?
Right.
We've got the OnePlus 13 is also a major contender. It's a really interesting time to be following the smartphone market because these companies are constantly trying to outdo each other.
It is, yeah.
And, oh, here's a juicy tidbit. Rumor has it that the upcoming iPhone 17 Pro might actually borrow some key features from the Galaxy S25 Ultra. What do you think about that?
Well, this is a really interesting development. It shows just how competitive the smartphone market is and how these companies are constantly watching each other, learning from each other, and trying to refine their designs.
Yeah.
You know, in the end, it's the consumers who benefit from this competition.
It's like a friendly rivalry. They're pushing each other to be better, which leads to better devices for all of us.
Exactly. But it's not just about individual features. You have to look at the bigger picture. How does the hardware work with the software? How intuitive is the user interface?
Right.
These are the elements that really make a difference in the long run.
So we've talked about AI getting a major upgrade, the possibility of gaming controllers becoming more like computer mice, and the fierce competition in the smartphone world. If you had to sum up what we've covered so far, what would you say is the overarching theme here?
Convergence. Everything in tech is becoming more interconnected. AI is impacting everything from how we interact with our homes to how we play games to how we use our smartphones.
Hmm.
The lines between these traditional categories, they're blurring. It's exciting, but it can also feel a little overwhelming.
It's like technology is becoming this giant melting pot where
Yeah.
ideas and features are constantly swirling around and blending together.
Ah.
As someone who loves tech, I gotta say, it's pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, it is. And it's important to remember that we're still in the early stages of this convergence.
Right.
Imagine what the next 5 or 10 years will bring.
Okay, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's bring it back to the present for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground today, so
Mhm.
before we move on, what are some key takeaways that you want our listeners to remember from this first part of our deep dive?
Well, first and foremost, stay curious.
Yeah.
The tech world moves so fast that being open to new ideas is essential. You don't have to be an expert, but don't be afraid to explore and learn why these developments matter.
I love that. Curiosity is key. What else?
Second, don't get swept up in the hype. Not every new gadget or feature is going to be life-changing. Think critically about whether something truly adds value to your life or if it's just clever marketing.
That's a really good point. Don't fall for the shiny object syndrome. Make sure the tech you choose actually fits your needs and interests.
Exactly. And lastly, remember that technology is ultimately a tool.
Okay.
It's up to us to decide how we use it and to shape its development.
Yeah.
We need to make sure it serves humanity in a positive way.
Well said. Well said. We're not just passive users. We have a role to play in shaping the future of technology. All right, so we've laid the groundwork, we've explored some of the latest happenings, and hopefully we've got you guys thinking critically about the role of tech in our lives.
I think we're ready for the next phase of our deep dive.
Yeah, you got it. Buckle up because we're about to go even deeper.
It's fascinating how much we focus on the way we actually like physically interact with our devices.
Yeah.
We talked about voice control with Alexa and the potential for mouse-like precision with that Switch controller.
Right.
Even the limitations of AI when it comes to like replicating genuine human creativity,
Mm-hmm.
it all points to this kind of ongoing evolution of how we interface with technology, with the digital world.
You're right. It's like the tools are constantly changing,
Yeah.
but that fundamental human need to connect, to create, to explore, that remains the same. And speaking of exploring, remember how we talked about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra having some issues with gaming performance?
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out that's not the whole story. There are actually a few other things to consider.
Yeah, it's important to remember that those benchmarking tests, while useful, don't always capture the full picture of real-world performance. There are so many variables at play,
Right.
from software optimization to network conditions to even the specific game being tested.
So those FPS numbers we mentioned earlier, they're just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. You also have to consider things like thermal throttling,
Okay.
which is basically how a device manages its performance to prevent overheating. So some phones might prioritize maintaining a consistently high frame rate,
Okay.
even if it means like slightly reducing performance over extended gaming sessions. Others might allow for short bursts of peak performance, even if it means the frame rate dips occasionally.
So it's like there are different philosophies when it comes to optimizing for gaming performance.
Precisely. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach. The best gaming phone really depends on your individual preferences and how you use your device.
Right.
Some people might prioritize a consistently smooth experience,
Right.
while others might be okay with the occasional frame rate drop in exchange for higher peak performance.
So it's like choosing between a marathon runner and a sprinter. Each has their own strengths and weaknesses depending on the situation.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Okay, but let's zoom out a little bit. You mentioned earlier how the smartphone market is incredibly competitive. What are some of the key trends you're seeing in this space?
Well, one trend that really stands out is this increasing emphasis on camera technology. It seems like every new flagship phone boasts a more advanced camera system than its predecessor,
Right.
with things like larger sensors, multiple lenses, and sophisticated AI-powered image processing.
It's like having a professional-grade camera in your pocket these days.
Exactly. And for many consumers, the camera has become one of the most important factors when choosing a new phone.
Well, yeah, makes sense. Everyone wants to capture those Instagram-worthy moments.
Absolutely. And it's not just about still photos either. Video recording capabilities are also improving rapidly, with features like 4K resolution at high frame rates and even 8K recording becoming more common.
So you're saying, like, I could potentially shoot a short film on my smartphone, and it could look like it was filmed with professional equipment.
It's becoming more feasible, yeah. And you're starting to see more and more creators actually embracing smartphones as legitimate filmmaking tools.
Wow. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. We've come a long way from those grainy, low-resolution videos of the past.
We have, yeah. And this trend of increasingly sophisticated camera technology shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, it's likely to become even more integrated with AI in the future.
So imagine a world where your smartphone camera can not only capture stunning visuals, but can also automatically edit your videos, add special effects, and even generate background music.
That's exactly where things seem to be heading. It's really blurring the lines between professional and consumer level filmmaking.
Okay, let's talk about another big trend in the smartphone world. Foldable phones. Are they finally starting to catch on?
Well, they're definitely gaining traction. You're seeing more manufacturers offering foldable models, and prices are gradually coming down. But they're still relatively niche devices.
What do you think is holding them back?
Durability is a big concern for many consumers. There have been some well-publicized issues with early foldable phones,
Right.
with screens cracking or developing creases.
Right, that whole folding glass thing was a bit of a head scratcher at first.
Yeah. It was a technological marvel, no doubt, but it also presented some real challenges in terms of durability. And then, of course, there's the price premium. Foldable phones are still significantly more expensive than traditional smartphones.
So it sounds like we're still in the early adopter phase for foldables.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the technology is advancing rapidly, and as prices continue to drop, I think we'll see more people embracing the flexibility and the unique capabilities that foldable phones offer.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears again and circle back to our earlier discussion about the Nintendo Switch 2 and those mouse-like Joy-Cons. You mentioned that this could potentially lead to entirely new genres of games. What are some possibilities that come to mind?
Well, one genre that immediately jumps out is real-time strategy games,
Yeah.
RTS games. These games typically require a lot of precision and quick actions, which can be really challenging to achieve with traditional console controllers.
Yeah, I've always found RTS games a bit intimidating on consoles. It feels like I'm fighting the controls as much as I'm fighting the enemy.
Exactly. But imagine being able to control your units with the precision and speed of a mouse. It could open up a whole new world of possibilities for RTS games on consoles.
Right, that would be pretty game-changing, especially for fans of franchises like StarCraft or Age of Empires.
Absolutely. And then there's the potential for these kind of hybrid genres,
Okay.
games that blend elements of different genres in new and innovative ways.
Okay.
Imagine a game that combines the action of a first-person shooter with the strategic depth of an RTS, all made possible by the precision of those mouse-like controls.
That's a really cool idea. It's a good reminder that innovation in gaming often comes from these unexpected places.
Yeah.
It's not always about bigger, more powerful consoles. Sometimes it's about rethinking how we interact with games.
Exactly. And the potential of those mouse-like Joy-Cons is a great example of that. It's not just about making existing games slightly better, it's about creating these entirely new experiences.
Right, right, right. Now let's take a step back and consider the broader implications of this convergence we've been talking about. What does it all mean for the future of technology as a whole?
Well, I think it points to a future where the lines between these different devices and platforms will continue to blur. We're going to see more and more devices that can seamlessly interact with each other, creating a truly interconnected ecosystem.
So instead of having a separate phone, a gaming console, a smart speaker, a computer, it'll all just be part of one unified experience.
Exactly. And AI is going to play a central role in orchestrating all of this, learning our preferences, anticipating our needs, making our lives easier, more enjoyable.
It sounds both incredibly exciting, but also a little bit daunting.
It is. There are a lot of unknowns, and there are definitely potential downsides to consider. Things like privacy concerns
Yeah.
and the potential for AI to become too intrusive.
Right.
But the possibilities are truly vast.
Yeah, it's like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier, and it's up to us to kind of navigate it thoughtfully and responsibly. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to touch on something we briefly mentioned earlier, that rumor about the iPhone 17 Pro potentially borrowing features from the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. This seems to be a growing trend in the smartphone world,
hmm
with companies constantly looking to each other for inspiration. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a natural consequence of the competitive landscape. When you have these companies that are constantly trying to outdo each other, it's inevitable that some ideas will cross-pollinate. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It can actually drive innovation and lead to better products for consumers.
So it's like a rising tide lifts all boats.
In a way, yes. As long as companies are building upon each other's ideas and not just simply copying them,
Right.
it can create a virtuous cycle of improvement.
Makes sense. And it's a reminder that even in a highly competitive market, collaboration and inspiration can play a vital role in pushing the boundaries of what's possible. All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, but there's still so much more to explore.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Exactly. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve even deeper into some of these emerging trends and explore their potential impact on our lives. Okay, so we're back. We're ready for the final part of our deep dive into the crazy world of tech.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about AI and gaming, smartphones, and how all these things, which seem kind of separate, are actually becoming more and more intertwined.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wild ride, honestly.
And it's only going to get wilder from here. I mean, we're just at the beginning of all this convergence.
Right, exactly. It's like we're at the very start of a whole new era of technology.
Yeah.
But before we get too lost in the future,
Mhm.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about tech being a tool
Mhm.
and using it responsibly. Making sure it actually benefits humanity. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. It's easy to get swept up in all the hype of new gadgets and shiny new features.
For sure.
But we got to remember that technology is really just a means to an end. It's a tool, and it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It's our responsibility to make sure that we're developing it and using it in a way that aligns with our values.
So it's not just about what tech can do, it's about what we choose to do with it.
That's it, exactly. We have to be aware of the potential consequences. I mean, think about AI, right? As it gets more powerful, we have to think about its impact on jobs, on privacy,
Yeah.
even on like the very nature of how we interact with each other.
It feels like we have a responsibility to shape the future of technology. We can't just passively sit back and accept whatever comes along.
I totally agree. And that responsibility, it's not just on tech experts or, politicians.
Mm,
It's on all of us. We all have a role to play in creating a future where technology serves us, not the other way around.
I like that. It makes me think about, like, what does it even mean to be human in this age of, like, super intelligent machines?
Ooh, that's a deep one.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, philosophers and scientists have been wrestling with that question for years now.
Yeah.
As machines get better at doing things that we used to think were only, human things, it really forces us to look at ourselves and figure out what makes us unique.
I feel like the definition of being human keeps changing.
It does. It definitely does. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
It could be a chance for us to learn and grow.
Yeah.
Maybe it forces us to focus on those qualities that, machines just can't replicate.
Like what?
Our creativity, our empathy, our ability to love and care for each other.
That's a good point. Those are things that, at least for now, machines can't do.
Exactly. And maybe those are the things we should be focusing on and like celebrating as we move into this like unknown territory of new technology.
I like that perspective. It's a reminder that even in a world where tech is everywhere, what makes us human is still the most important thing.
Mm.
Okay, so before we wrap up this whole deep dive, I want to give our listeners a chance to jump in.
Yeah, let's hear from them.
We love hearing your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Your curiosity and all your questions, they're what make these deep dives so fun for us.
For sure.
So here's the deal. If you could pick the topic for our next deep dive, what would it be? Is there, like, a burning tech question that you're dying to have us answer? A gadget that you're obsessed with? A trend that's just got you completely confused?
Let us know.
Yeah, hit us up on our website, social media, carrier pigeon, whatever works.
We're always on the lookout for new and exciting topics. And who knows, maybe your suggestion will be our next deep dive adventure.
It's like you guys get to steer the ship. You get to guide us through this giant, ever-expanding ocean of technology.
We can't wait to see where your curiosity takes us.
On that note, we're going to say goodbye for now. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep those tech-loving minds engaged. Until next time, happy exploring.
Happy exploring.